This week we bust some myths about full-time RVing, plus a fall camping outlook. All that and more, this is RV Miles.
Fall is coming. Let's get going. LL Bean wants to help you make the most out of this spectacular season with gear tips and advice for heading outdoors. For fall hikes, when it's cold in the morning and warm in the afternoon, layering becomes very important. You don't want to get chilled, and you don't want to sweat through your clothes either. A good rule of thumb is to start out dressed as if the temperature is 10 degrees warmer than it is, so once you start generating body heat, you won't get overly hot. For more tips, easy how-tos, and inspiring stories, visit llbean.com/guide.
Welcome to episode number 292 of RV Miles. I'm Jason.
And I'm Abby, and we are two RVers who, along with our three boys, Jack, Ethan, and Henry, have been crisscrossing all across North America since 2016. Here at RV Miles, we talk all things RV and outdoors, from industry news to travel destinations, our national parks, and so much more. It is always so funny when I accidentally flip the script right there, because you look at me and you're like, uh-oh, where's she going with this one? And most of the time I don't know. The words just start coming out.
We've sort of been reminiscing about our life on the road over the last seven years, full-time traveling the country, traveling 3 countries now. And on this episode, we thought we'd talk a little bit about that and about some of the myths that people think about when they think about full-time RVing.
Yeah, we're bringing back RV myth busting. Yeah, it's been a minute since we've done. It's been a minute. So
we're going to talk about some of the things that you might not have thought about if you're considering full-time RVing, or if not, I still think it's good information for people who want to travel a lot. But first, we're going to talk about camping in the fall. It is time for the fall equinox. Today is Friday that we're recording this. The equinox is overnight tonight.
But by the time you see this or hear this, it will have already passed.
And something will happen to you. Some sort of cosmic change in your life will have happened.
You will see a tree turning a different color in front of your eyes.
We are starting to see, I'm looking at the trees across from us right now, and there's just a little bit of yellow showing up on some of the leaves. So we're seeing that begin here a bit down in the middle Midwest, the upper Midwest. I've seen some photos of it already being in its full glory.
Leaf peeping is
happening. So it's that time of year, and fall camping it has become a really big thing. It used to be that the end of the camping season was pretty much Labor Day. Some people might go a little bit further. For most of us in these sort of colder weather climates, obviously people down south are like, okay, it's camping season is beginning, right?
Yeah, I was going to say for them, fall is like, oh, finally we can go outside.
But the kids go back to school, and the seasonal workers that are college kids and high school kids at campgrounds go back to school. Don't see as much of that anymore, but there's still a bit of that happening at some of these sort of resort type places. But KOA has a new study out about fall camping and what we can expect this year, and it's really surprising to me. So most campers, and when KOA defines campers, it's tent campers, RV campers, all sorts of campers. Most campers, in fact 85%, so pretty much all campers, plan to camp this fall. How late into the season, I don't know. But here it gets a little hard. We've been trying to figure out ways for us to camp further into the fall, and I think I just came up with a solution last night. But one of the issues here is that so many of the campgrounds in the Midwest here, at least in Illinois, closed down by like October 15th at the latest. The first hard freeze usually happens somewhere around late October. Most of them are not winterized, so most of them close down. Right. So that makes it really challenging. There's usually just a few commercial campgrounds. There's got KOA close to us.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's no longer
It's
a KOA.
no longer
It's
a
one of those
KOA.
that was
Lost
yeah.
its KOA-ness.
It's not the greatest campground. So
It's now known as Camelot, and boy, could that not be further from the truth. There's nothing Camelot about that place whatsoever.
But there's going to be a lot of people looking for campgrounds, whether they're open or not, over the course of this fall, and we saw that gradually happening over the past several years. Where, at first it started with campgrounds realized that Halloween was a really good thing that they could have events around. They could have trick or treating and hayrack rides and stuff like that.
Hayrack rides.
Often they usually happen early in October and not around actual Halloween, though.
Is it called hayrack rides?
Yeah.
I just thought it was hay rides.
She's from Kansas City. I'm sorry.
Wait, I'm sorry. Hayrack?
Yeah.
We have to stop for a second. It's just a trailer with some hay barrels on it. What's a rack about that?
The trailer, the rack.
I've never seen it advertised as a hayrack ride. Just says hay rides. Hey, weigh in here. Am I the only one who's for 44 years has missed the rack part in?
It was always called a hayrack ride when I was a kid. I remember when I was a kid going on a haunted hayrack ride. My cousin.
I've gone on a haunted hay ride. I'm
sure, same thing. I'm fairly certain, because you're not just riding on hay. You got to ride on. But I remember as a kid going on a haunted hay ride. I can't even say hay ride.
I know.
Haunted hayrack ride. That's what we call them. I don't know. Where with my cousins, and I remember my cousin Eric got really scared by a guy that sort of jumped on the side of the hayrack.
The worst.
And he punched him in the face. It was just like a gut reaction, of like a 12-year-old.
What is it with you people in the Quad Cities and your gut reactions being just to punch somebody? This is not the first story I've heard about this. Is this just something?
You feel like you're being attacked in the woods.
My first reaction is to shove the person nearest to me towards danger and then run.
We've always known this. This is what you do.
Just know, if you're on a haunted hayrack ride with me and somebody jumps out at us, I am going to shove you towards them if you're sitting next to me. Then I'm going to hop off and I'm going to start running back towards the entrance and to my car, and I'm going to leave.
So beyond fall, however, winter camping is also growing. 38% of campers say they will definitely camp this winter versus just 17% the year prior.
And we plan to be that 38% this year. We're going to attempt some off-grid, cold weather winter camping, yes.
Another 27%, in addition on top of those 38%, another 27% say they will probably camp this winter, resulting in a potential for 65% of campers to experience cold season camping. Again, they call it cold season camping. It's not cold season camping in southern Arizona.
No, I mean, if you're down in Florida, is it really when you camp in January?
I don't know. I've seen some of those people in Florida wearing their heavy parkas and gloves when it's 65 degrees outside.
The Canadian Goose jackets. Out there. I mean, fair enough. But that's a great question for anyone listening or watching is, what are your plans? I mean, do you want to camp further into the fall season? Do you plan to camp into what is cold season, winter camping? What are you up to this year? Or do you already have that rig snug as a bug in a rug, tucked away for the season? We'd love to know. So drop a line over on the RV Miles Facebook group, or if you're watching it, leave a comment down below.
And in looking towards the future, just one fact to add here, 53% of campers have already booked something for 2024.
Okay.
As opposed to leisure travelers in general, so folks that take airplanes, people that are going to stay in hotels, they have only 13% of them have booked a trip for next year. I think that really points to the campground reservation problem. People who are hardcore campers know that they've got to get on top of those reservations.
And we are not one of those people, because we do not
have no reservations for next year.
We have plans for 2024. And that's as far as
We
we've
should
got.
probably make some reservations.
Well, yeah, especially if we plan to do this eclipse thing we keep talking about
Yeah.
in April. I mean,
Yeah.
we might want to
This
get on
is
that.
well, and this is one of the problems. This is one of the myths that we're going to talk about when we come back about full-time RVing and the difficulty in getting campsites, because I think it is a bit different for part-timers.
Things just got a little bit more real for us when it comes to booking campgrounds.
We'll be right back.
Be right back.
This episode is sponsored by the Park Wolf app. Ever found yourself in the heart of a national park, surrounded by beauty, but unsure where to go or what to see? That's where Park Wolf comes in. Park Wolf is the ultimate app for exploring national parks. As you drive, the GPS shows you what's coming up on the road, and an audio guide will fill you in on what's there, so you can decide if it's worth a stop for you or not. Gas running low, looking for a bite to eat or a bathroom break? Park Wolf's got you covered. It keeps track of the nearest gas station, restrooms, food, and pullover areas. And the best part, it works without an internet connection. And if you're a wildlife enthusiast, you'll love Park Wolf's wildlife maps and sighting notifications. So before you set off on your next national park adventure, download the Park Wolf app for your iPhone from the App Store. It's your ultimate guide to national parks. Chances are you've seen them on the road. That's because Blue Ox designs and manufactures the best towing products in the industry. Just look around, you'll find them on highways and campgrounds and anywhere you find people traveling in the great outdoors. Award-winning tow bars, base plates, and brakes, a full line of weight-distributing hitches, adjustable ball mounts, and a new line of fifth-wheel hitches. With Blue Ox, towing doesn't have to be a drag. To learn more about how Blue Ox can make your travel adventures even more stress-free, visit blueox.com.
We are back, and we're going to talk a bit about full-time RVing myths. But before we do, just a quick shout out to all of you that are subscribers to the RV Miles YouTube channel. We have the RV Miles podcast YouTube channel and the regular, bigger RV Miles YouTube channel. That channel is about to hit 100,000 subscribers. So for those of you who are there, thank you so much for your support. We're very excited about reaching that milestone. If you have not subscribed yet, it would be so fantastic if you would go over there and hit that subscribe button. Look, I'm one of those people that I don't subscribe to YouTube channels. I just watch YouTube channels, and then I expect that the algorithm is going to show me what I want. And if I want to search for YouTube, if I want to go watch a Less Junk, More Journey video, I just type in Less Junk and go there. I don't really follow the YouTube notifications very much. So if you're like me and it doesn't matter anyway, just give us the little support by hitting that subscribe button. It helps out. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we've got some really cool stuff coming over there in 2024. I feel like I can't take really any of the credit for what's going on over at that channel. This has really been curated by Jason. This has been Jason's. No, for reals. I mean, let's be honest. You do 90% of the videos that are landing over there. You're really the face
just
of that
because
channel.
I'm in them in the face of it doesn't mean that you're not a huge part of putting it together.
Well, I do write a mean show note. Okay, I do write a mean show note. Not for anything you're doing over there. I write them for this channel here. But I will say that in 2024, especially because of the support from mile marker members. So thank you to those of you who are mile marker members and helping us grow this small business. Because of that support, the things that we have coming for that YouTube channel in 2024 are really going to build on these news videos, on these industry and consumer videos that Jason has really been curating and putting together over the last 3 years. Like, this is really kind of been a little bit of a passion project of yours.
We're going to try to do about twice as many videos over there next year.
Yes.
We'll see how that goes, but we're going to really try to get, in addition to the weekly news video, in the middle of every week or the end of it, whenever it is, we're going to try to also get an additional video that might be something about RV life, might be a RV tour. We're going to try to do a lot more RV tours, stuff like that.
Yeah, so this is exciting. So if you are not subscribed over to the channel, and because there's going to be so much coming out, you would like to keep on top of it, now's the perfect time to do it and help us cross that 100,000 marker. That's wild. I never thought we'd be talking about 100,000 on YouTube. So thanks to everyone that's been making that happen. We're so humbled and amazed.
All right, as I mentioned before, as we've finished up our full-time travels here, we're still not in our new home yet. We'll be there in about a month. But we have been sort of contemplating our last many years on the road, thinking about future travels and how we're going to lay those out. And we've come up with some myths that people might have about full-time RVing. A few of these we've covered in the past, a few we haven't. That you might want to consider before you jump into full-time RVing, or even sort of long-term, you want to go out seasonally, that sort of stuff. This is stuff you might want to think about if you're going to be heading out there, or if you just, you have thoughts about full-time RVing and you don't do it, and you want to be corrected. We're going to correct those thoughts.
Okay, well, here we go. The first one is that full-time RVing is like being on a perpetual vacation. Pretty sure if you have been listening to all 292 episodes of the RV Miles podcast, you probably have gotten the idea that is absolutely not true.
It took us a long time to figure out that, we still need to make time for vacation within our full-time lifestyle. We need to take off from work for a week or two.
And that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Incredibly hard.
And no matter what you do working from the road. Now, of course, if you're a retiree and you're ready to go out and explore, you have a little bit more leeway. But life still does get in the way. You can't just sort of drop everything, all this stuff that you normally do in your everyday life. You have to continue on the road a little bit. You still have to deal with your insurance and your vehicle registration, all the things that come up in life, your doctor's appointments, all that sort of stuff. So when we go visit a destination, we go to Yosemite National Park, for instance, and we're in that area for 2 weeks. For us, as people who work from the road, we're not able to accomplish anywhere near what people who are there on vacation are able to do in a much shorter amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something to consider for yourself too, like how fast you're going to travel, how much you're going to see, is it realistic that you're going to hit all 50 states in 1 year and work from the road? And if you have kids, you're adding in that homeschool aspect as well, whatever that means for you. So there has to be time allotted for that as well. All right, next myth that we're busting here is that living in an RV is always cheaper than living in a house. Yucca.
Yeah.
Not
no.
Not if you go to Alaska.
The costs, you can control the costs in a really decent way, depending on if you do a lot of boondocking, if you make all your meals in your RV. But there are things about full-time RVing that make it actually a little bit harder. You don't have your regular grocery store that you go to. Often you're going to these expensive grocery stores in really rural areas outside of a national park where everything is just, it can be pricey.
And again, this comes back to how fast do you travel? Mm-hmm. Because you have to have the fuel to get there. Where are you going when you travel as well? All of these costs have to be taken into consideration. Going back to that thing about, I want to do all 50 states in 1 year. That is going to cost a lot in fuel. You want to go up to Alaska. You want to go to Baja. You want to go to all these places we want to get to. You want to go to Yellowstone or Yosemite. You want to go to these beautiful national parks. Again, like Jason was just saying about the grocery store, a lot of these places are really remote. And when they're really remote, it's harder to get fuel up there, which means you're going to pay more. So really take that into consideration. Of course, there are so many things you can do to offset that cost. But if your idea is that you're going to stay at an RV resort for 2/3 of the time you're on the road and you're going to be just traveling all over the country, that is going to get expensive really, really quick.
Yeah, it's the thing I always think of is you can't compare it to like a 3,000 square foot house. Yeah, I mean, of course it might be cheaper, but also like, okay, say your RV is 250 square foot, compare it to a 250 square foot small cabin somewhere. You're probably going to save a lot more money living minimalistically in a small cabin or in an apartment or something like that. So there is a possibility out there that you can save a lot of money. There's a lot of people that spend very little money on the road. If you watch the Cheap RV Living channel, there's lots of lots of really good tips out there. But it's not a given.
Yeah, it can absolutely be done. And I think, one more thing to touch on before we move on to consider with your budget, and we've talked about this, the growing number of people who are taking out loans in order to afford an RV, in order to own an RV. If you are one of those people, and there's no shame in that game, you have that monthly cost as well.
Yeah.
So you're factoring that monthly cost for the rig, the cost for the campgrounds, and the cost for the fuel. And that can, again,
and some of these rigs cost as much as a home, and depreciate a heck of a lot faster.
It's wild that we're about to say this, but I actually think, given where things are at right now in full timing and what our full timing was looking like, because we were moving very fast and we had a lot of things that we wanted to cover content wise, I actually think this next year we will spend less owning or renting an apartment and still traveling 4 months out of the year than we did for 2020.
And that's because we're going to continue to live somewhat minimalistically.
Yes.
And
well, yes, we're moving into a 3-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, and because a lot of the travels we did in the last year were expensive.
Yes, Baja to Alaska sounds just as expensive as it sounds.
Baja was cheap. It's the California and Washington and Oregon and Canada and Alaska part that's expensive.
Canada and Alaska may have broken our bank account. All right, the next one. It's easy to find remote work and stay connected.
Yeah, look, there are a lot of remote jobs out there now. So you might see a lot of remote jobs available and think that it's going to be very easy to get one. The challenge that people are having right now with remote jobs is that a lot of these companies are only allowing you to remote work from a state that they have what's called nexus in. I mean, basically they have locations in that state, sticks and bricks locations in that state. So they might not allow you to travel about the country. A lot of them also require a hardwired internet connection. Now, a lot of people find ways to fake that, but there are challenges like that. So there definitely are plenty of remote work opportunities that will work, and opportunities to work on the road, not remotely, not over the internet. But it's not as simple as this whole pandemic move to remote work might make it sound.
Well, and we're seeing a lot of what was pandemic remote work returning. Returning to the office.
Now, what I think has happened, though, is there's a lot more flexibility for people who do work in an office to remote work for short periods of time.
Yeah.
So that's going to really allow a lot of RV owners to go out and vacation longer. So you have your week off, but maybe you can tack on a few more days to that you're going to work and be remote and be able to be out with your family a little longer.
Yeah, there can still be a lot of flexibility within this, but there needs to be some realistic expectations about it, as well as I think the landscape, the remote working landscape is starting to shift a little bit. And I think we're going to see more of that 2024 being where exactly are we going to land with all of this?
It's like waves. There's a big tidal wave, and then there's a retraction, and then there's another wave and a retraction. It's going to continue to erode, but there's always those retractions.
Yeah, absolutely. The next myth we're going to talk about here is that you can always travel to places with perfect weather. I am sure we have all seen that map that's called something like Chasing 70 Degrees. And it shows all the locations that you can go to where you will always be in 70-degree weather. If anyone has been paying any attention to weather news over the last several years, you know that it is so unpredictable at this point. There are places where Seattle, for instance, let's talk about the Pacific Northwest and the heat waves they've been having over there, where the majority of people that live in the Pacific Northwest don't even have air conditioning.
Yeah, remember in early 2021, we were part of that Texas freeze up. We were in San Antonio and it got down to 8 degrees.
Yes, that was wild. I don't think I've been back to Texas since. That's how wild it was. You've probably heard us talk about being in the South in the spring. There is this shift, it seems to be, that Tornado Alley is moving.
Mm-hmm.
And so
it's moved south and
it's
east.
really moved south and east. So what used to be great weather locations are now experiencing some pretty intense, severe weather down there. So yes, you can absolutely attempt to chase 70 degrees, but you at this point, if you're going to be a full-time RVer, you need to be prepared for all forms of weather. And there are some fantastic locations that we can go to down in the Southwest, maybe, or you go down to the Keys. But when you're talking budget,
Yeah.
and if you got kids,
there are
places
there
will
are
take you.
very few places in the winter that are truly warm, and that's southern Florida, southern California, southern Arizona, and southern Texas. That's basically it.
But remember when we came out of Baja and went to San Diego, it was never warm enough the whole time we were there for the kids to truly swim and not be freezing.
Yeah, a lot of people just expect that they won't have to run very much, don't want to use propane very much, and that it's just unrealistic if you're full time.
Yeah, so just something to keep in mind, that the weather is going to be all over the place, and you just got to roll with it. You got to stay safe. All right, the next one is that full-time RVing is a lonely and isolated way to live. That could not be further from the truth.
We have made so many great friends on the road, not just acquaintances, but people that we have become very, very close to. And so have the kids. And people who are in campgrounds and other full-timers are usually really quick to chat you up and be friendly. Campgrounds often have lots of activities. The cities and the towns that you visit, you can do all the same sorts of things that you would have done back home. We have been able to, part of this depends on what your home makeup already is. But, for us, coming from living in Chicago, where we had no family, and we have family spread across the country in Illinois and Tennessee and in Texas and in Missouri and California, we've been able to go see all of those people, some of which we wouldn't have seen for years had we not been able to do that, and spend really quality extended time with them.
Absolutely. And for those of you traveling with kids, we cannot recommend the Republic of Nomads enough. It's a fantastic organization, and totally awesome and inclusive organization that is perfect for families out on the road. They have events all over the country that you can go to. I really like that they are also volunteer and service based with all of their events as well. They're just so great. If you are a full-time RVing family, check out Republic of Nomads.
What's next?
Oh, we have more. Okay, so we have a few more here. Domicile is simple. You can just get a UPS address.
We've seen so many people run into this problem where they think, and other people tell them, other full-time RVers tell them, you just need to get a UPS box. You go to a UPS store, you can get a UPS box. They'll even scan and send your email to you. Those addresses and many, many other mailing service addresses across the country have been flagged by the banks and by your Department of Motor Vehicles as not physical residential addresses. So people start running into problems where they can't register to vote. They can't get their driver's license renewed. They can't open a bank account or get a loan because those banks aren't recognizing those addresses. So if you don't have a relative who can be your full-time address like we have always had, that's what we have always done, even though we've used mailing services for businesses, we highly recommend that you go to one of the major organizations that does this, which means you're going to have to become probably a resident of Texas or Florida or possibly South Dakota. Escapees is probably the best and biggest one out there. The Escapees organization, they have addresses in Florida and Texas. You're going to have to go to those states to register for the first time, but that's going to be a big hassle. That's going to be an expense because those states also have some upfront fees for moving there and registering your vehicles and and all that for the first time. Your insurance is going to be higher if you're a Florida resident, for sure. But you have to do that if you want to be able to do all those other things, and you don't have like a relative whose address that you can use. You have to have a domicile address. You can't just float around.
And I want to amend just a little bit. We actually did carry, when we first got on the road, we did have traveling mailboxes for also our personal email or
Yeah, but
our personal mail as well. But not a lot. See, we're living in an age too now where so much of what we do can be paperless. There's really, outside of a few very important pieces of documents, papers, mail that you need to get, that you cannot be paperless for. So if you can, talk to that loved one and have a few things sent to them a few times a year.
It's really just like your taxes and your vehicle registration and your driver's license renewal. That's it.
But if they're in another state and it's going to just require all of that switch anyway, and this is something you think you're going to be full-time for a long time, then it is probably worth to do something like Jason mentioned with escapees. If you're testing out these waters, it might be worth it just to talk to a family member, because you don't want to go through this whole hassle of perhaps switching to Texas or Florida only to decide, you know what, full-timing's not for me. I miss my hometown. I miss my family. I want to move back. And now you've got to do it all over again, 6 months, 9 months later. So a few things to think about there when it comes to getting the mail. All right, another one, and we've talked a lot about this, so we won't spend too much time on it, but it's too hard to get campsites. Not true. The reality of full timing is the flexibility that comes with full timing. Unless you say, I must be in the Smoky Mountains during the fireflies, and that's only happening 2 weeks out of the year.
That's the big difference we're finding, is that when we were full-timers, the availability at a certain campground often dictated where we went, especially if it was a really cool place. And now that we're going to part-timing, knowing that we're going to go out for these certain sets of weeks or days or whatever, we need to book campgrounds in those specific days. It still might, what's available might dictate a little bit of where we go, but that flexibility of just being able to go where you wanted to go actually wasn't that hard for us, because if an area was just all booked up, we'd just go to a different place.
Now, maybe you're someone, though, that feels more comfortable having everything booked out way in advance, or you feel nervous because maybe you have a larger rig and there's places you want to go that you only have a set number of campsites you can fit into. That's absolutely fine. Again, we're talking about flexibility, which is the great thing about full-time RVing, because it allows you to be the type of RVer that is most comfortable for you. So if you're a planner, plan away. If you're someone that's like, I'm just going to go where the availability is, you can do that as well. It's a full-timing is this really beautiful sort of adventure where you get to create your own adventure. It's create your own story a little bit. And that is certainly true when it comes to how you want to travel and how you want to book campsites. All right, we have one more after this. So 2 more. Here we go. It will solve all your problems. Woof.
No, a lot of people start full-timing to get away from something that's going on in their life, something difficult. Or they think that their family is going through some struggles and that moving their family full-time will fix those things. And I think what we have learned is full-timing comes with some stressors of not being able to be in too much of a routine. And those stressors, whether it's just having different grocery stores like we mentioned before, or having to pack up the rig every week, or not knowing where you're going to eat, you don't have your regular restaurants and stuff, those little things add up, and I think they just amplify the good and the bad in your life.
I would say that, and we again have talked a lot about this, I 100% believe that full-time RVing for our family gave us our family back. And we've talked a lot about this, about Jason's work life in Chicago and how we were, really needing to make some changes. I 100% believe that the choice for us to go full-time gave us our family back. like everything that happens in life, there is a season for everything. And while we were given this one section back, we were presented with other challenges, other stressors that we didn't have when we were living in
We
Chicago.
didn't have any money anymore.
We didn't. We had a bus that was breaking down all the time. But what we had was time.
Yeah.
And I've just recently wrote about this in a Road Signs newsletter. I talked about how full-timing gave me the gift of time, especially with Jack. That I got these 7 years of really being with Jack and watching our kids grow in this just really beautiful and sort of family focused way for us, for our family. This is not going to work for every family. And we had so many stressors on the road. Stressors of getting Henry back for specialists, medicals. We've had so many medical stressors. We've had
so many rig breakdowns.
So many and those stressors are present as full-timers. If we had been in a sticks and bricks over the last 7 years, we would have had these same stressors in different ways or different stressors. Full timing is not the answer, but full timing can be the beginning of a healing journey. But it's never, if you're running from something, it does not matter how far you run, that thing will always find you.
It's not going to cure your mental health struggles. It's not going to make you lose weight because you're going to be more active. Guarantee you that it's not true.
I mean, look what's going on over here, y'all. We ate our way through Baja and Alaska. I think too that you have to consider as well that we had, full disclosure, we had plenty of relationship stressors before we got on the road.
Mm-hmm.
We had, our marriage was tough. And that was because we had gone into a relationship where we hadn't really had any time to get to know one another before we became parents. There was a lot that was happening.
So we decided to start a business together.
So we decided to start a business together and move ourselves into a teeny tiny little space where you think that those things are going to get better. Those things didn't get better.
And when you say it like that, it's obviously, of course, that's going to make
How silly
worse.
are
But we were able to then work through that, and
yes,
and part of it forced us to get better in some ways.
Yeah.
But it's all going to be dependent on you and your family life, what it does to you. Some people cannot be in a confined space with each other 24 hours a day.
No, and that's why there's places like Target where we get to go and walk aimlessly, or just a trail, or there's I joke, but I don't. There's a lot that comes with, you might be letting one thing go and healing one thing or improving one thing, but do expect that, like every change in life, there will be the unexpected, and that could be, boy, I didn't know how difficult it would be to be in a confined space with you all the time and start a business with you. But if you are committed to it and you want to do the work, and you got to do the work, it does get better, and something really beautiful does get to come out of it. All right. Finally, last one. You're stuck with it if you start.
Just like we've said from the beginning, everybody asked us from the very beginning, well, what will you do if you hate it? We always said, well, we're just renting an apartment now. We'll just stop and rent an apartment.
To stop.
And
that's the thing. You just stop.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, what, we got the question all the time, how long are you going to do this? And we always said, this is a family decision. We will do this as long as the family unit is on board with this. And after 7 years, not everyone in the family is on board with this anymore.
No.
And that's fine.
You can't always stop if you're somebody that sold your house and put all your equity into an RV that was very expensive,
into
it's underwater and all
Right.
that.
It's not as easy.
So be careful about setting up your full-time life so that it isn't that hard to exit.
But if you're a traveling nurse, you're a seasonal worker, you're doing jobs that require you to go to a location for several months at a time, and you want to have, if you have a family or you just want to take your RV with you and do that, it can be a little bit harder to be like, okay, I'm done now, because obviously your livelihood, your income is tied into that. In no way did we have that on the same kind of level, but for sure there were a lot of conversations that happened between Jason and I. Will RV Miles survive this? Is RV Miles only built on Jason and Abby being full-timers on the road? And we rolled the dice on that one. We're rolling the dice that this business will not only hold itself, but this business will thrive, because ultimately, as important as RV Miles is to us, ultimately, the family and the success and the health of everyone in this family has to come first. And then everything else has to be built off of that. So it's tough, whether you're doing it for 1 month, 6 months, 6 years, or 16 years. Change is hard, but change is possible. We're all capable of change. We just have to be smart about it, and we have to be true to ourselves about it.
If you're somebody that hates change, full-time RVing might not be for you.
If you're an anxious person like myself, that can be tough too. And I think this is one that, we didn't really touch on a lot, because I don't think that we can speak to you on how to do this, but you really do have to weigh with full-time RVing. It is not impossible. I think we are examples of that. But if you have people in your home that need specialist care, that have unique challenges, you need to take that into consideration as well, how you continue to provide that care, help for yourself or for that loved one, because that is so important. You cannot put those things aside just so you can go visit all the national parks.
You can still have a life where you homeschool, you work from remotely or from home, and travel extensively, while you still have a home base to come back to deal with all those things. If that is something that you have to do for your family, you can absolutely do it that way. You don't have to be full-time just because it sounds, like an amazing adventure, which it is. You can still have amazing adventures without completely cutting ties to a home base.
But I'll be the other one on your shoulder and say, if you can do it, you should do it, because it was 7 awesome years.
You can always stop.
And I cannot wait to go back. It's no secret that I was not the one that voted for getting off the road, but I'm totally okay with it, because I know that after this particular season of life, watch out, y'all, I'm getting back on the road.
Yeah, Abby and I will we'll probably still have a home base, but we will probably be very, very most time once the kids are gone.
We will have children spread out all over this country. I do not doubt it. Therefore, I will need a way to get to them and then be there for long periods of time when someday maybe they have kids. Who knows? Who knows?
All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we will check the level of our tanks.
We'll be right back.
Hey friends in the Pacific Northwest, this weekend you won't find a bigger or better selection of RVs than at the Tacoma Fall RV Show. With more than a dozen local dealers, hundreds of units, and acres of inventory on display. This 4-day show has RVs for all budgets. The 39th annual Tacoma Fall RV Show runs September 28th through October 1st. Tickets are $15 for adults and children, 16 and under are free. Find coupons, hours, venue information, and free parking at TacomaFallRVShow.com. Don't miss the Tacoma Fall RV Show this weekend only. TacomaFallRVShow.com.
Welcome back to the show. It is time to check the level of our tanks, sponsored by our friend Matt's RV Reviews Liquefied RV Toilet Treatment, the no BS toilet treatment. You can find it in our Amazon store at amazon.com/shop/RVmiles. PJ, what is filling up your black tank this week?
My black tank is what is going on with where they put cheese in grocery stores.
What? Wait, what?
Hy-Vee, the Hy-Vee by us.
Yeah.
I've used the grocery chain around here. They have, I counted,
Uh-huh.
there is cheese. There are cheese sections in 5 different spots of the store.
Y'all, this is such an insight into Jason's mind that he counted as he was grocery shopping.
There's the artisan cheese section that's near like the
Where
cured
your-
meats and stuff.
Your charcuterie.
And by that they have some lunch type cheeses, like stuff that you would put
The
on a
deli.
sandwich and stuff.
Yes.
But it's not the square slices in the bricks, which are an entirely different section over by the dairy.
Yes,
And
I'm
then
familiar.
so there's a wall of that, of like this the
Uh-huh.
packaged slices and bricks.
Yes.
And then in between that is several rows of dairy, of butter and milk and eggs and all the stuff that's over there. And then on the other side of all that is all the shredded cheese, because the shredded cheese has got to be separate from the sliced cheese
Can
for whatever reason.
Can I share with you that you are forgetting a cheese section?
I only
And
said
that
4.
would be the Velveeta.
Oh
which
yes,
is
well
also.
I remember the
How
first
dare
time my
you
mom
forget
sent
Velveeta.
me to the grocery store. My mom sent me to the grocery store when I was probably 13 to get Velveeta.
Did you drive?
No, I walked.
Okay.
We were close.
Okay.
Oh no, I would have driven. It would have been after I was 16.
I thought you started driving at 14.
Well, you had to have a parent with you though.
Oh, see, I have a feeling you probably was like.
No, I did.
Sorry.
I followed the rules.
Okay.
You could drive to school or work or by yourself, but you had to be with a parent
Okay.
anywhere else until you
Okay.
turned 16. So I drove to the grocery store to get Velveeta. I looked everywhere.
Wow.
And
And there's no one you could call, right?
And then finally I asked a store
Oh my
employee,
gosh.
which is rare for me,
I was gonna say,
even
how
at
long-
43 years old.
How long did you walk around before you
A long
asked?
time. The store employee didn't know. They couldn't figure it out
Oh
either.
my gosh.
So they had to get another employee, and then we finally found it. And I didn't have a cell phone then, so it was like I want to call mom and say, "Hey, what aisle's it in?" Be a lot easier these days, right? But
45 minutes
that
later.
was rough. I also remember, I think that day I was supposed to come home with cashews or something, and I came home with water chestnuts. It was a totally different thing.
And all these years later,
I remember it because I've always been like, why is the Velveeta here? Why?
Don't forget the queso in the jar.
The queso in the jars. Sure. Why the Velveeta wouldn't be near that, I don't know. Because the chips and the crackers don't go together. Why wouldn't the chips and the crackers go together? That makes all the sense in the world
Wow.
to me. That the chips and the crackers and the bread would be right by each other. Nope.
Oh.
Why is the soda in one aisle and the water in a completely different aisle?
So this is an episode of that podcast.
And all
that
you,
you
I know all you're gonna comment and answer. You'll be like, it's because they do it on purpose to make you spend more time in the store and
Yes.
find things.
This is an episode of the podcast that you need to start about
Yes.
what's happening in Jason's.
Yes.
Like this is
5 different cheese sections.
5. Okay, so black tank to all that cheese out there. What though has filled up your fresh tank this week?
My fresh tank is that Starlink antennas are about to get much smaller, about half the size. They're just sort of in the testing phase. It's been approved by the FCC for them to test them, but both the large mobile antenna, the one that you can use in motion if you pay a ton of money, is $2,500, and the normal one that most people have are going to shrink dramatically in size. And I think that's going to be great for opportunities for like mounting them and getting them out of the way and not having them, ride in the middle of the floor in the RV like ours does. So I think there's going to be a lot more options for folks using Starlink in the future.
Are we gonna get one of these new ones? Like, do they just send them to
No,
us to
yeah.
replace?
What are you going? When you say "Are we going to get it?" Do you mean are we going to buy it or?
Listen, I'm done giving Elon Musk any more of my money.
Well, this is a
Like,
question about. This is
done.
the question though that I think people have about these new antennas. Are they just smaller because they're cheaper for them to manufacture? because that's what happened from the first generation of the dish to the second generation. First generation of the dish, they lost a lot of money on because it was better. And there's things like with Tesla. So we have a Tesla now, as many of you know. This generation of Teslas that we have, they just removed the sensors. So there's all the self-driving and stuff that Teslas can do if you pay extra money, and that was previously done with a combination of cameras and proximity sensors. They've removed all the proximity sensors, and they say they can do it all with just higher resolution cameras. They haven't actually done it yet totally. So that's a question that remains. The new Model 3 that's been announced, that's going to come out next year, is removing the turn signal stock, and you're going to have a left and right button on the steering wheel.
Hard pass.
For the turn signal.
Hard
and
pass.
All of this is sort of done in a way to be like, oh, it's sleek, it's minimalist, it's cooler, but also it's cheaper to build. We love our Tesla. We're very happy with it.
Oh, yeah.
But there's stuff like that in Musk companies that tend to happen.
And in fact, we love our Tesla so much, and we're going to answer so many questions that y'all have had about it over on this week's Detour, which is our show after the show that you're watching here. Detour we produce for our Mile Marker Plus members. Those are members who are supporting us at either the $7 a month level or just $70 for an entire year. We do this weekly show for those folks over there. So if you want to hear us talk a little bit more about Tessie, the Tesla, and how our last month has been with this EV, then please consider joining us at the $7 or $70 a month level as a Mile Marker Plus member.
What is in your black tank this week?
Okay, so my black tank, this was actually, speaking of mile markers, this was shared over in the Mile Marker Facebook group, which is this private group that we have for the supporters. Someone shared that in northern Michigan, there is a story of a woman who dropped her watch, I think it was her Apple Watch, into a pit toilet, went to retrieve it, and got stuck inside the pit toilet. People, I need you to stop climbing into
there is nothing
toilet. Stop it.
You are allowed to go after a small child that you dropped into a pit toilet.
Yes.
Nothing else.
There's only thing you should be going after is if it is a living, breathing thing.
I don't care if it's a $30,000 wedding ring. You're not getting it back.
Listen,
you're not going to find it.
It's a poop ring now, okay? I understand Apple Watches, our phones, these are all really expensive devices. I get it. I totally do. If I lost my Apple Watch into a pit toilet, even if I could retrieve it, all I could think about for the rest of my life is this is a poop watch, that it was in a pit toilet. I don't care if I bought a new band.
There's a reason I pay $11 a month insurance on my phone. It's because I drop things, I break things, I lose things.
Yes.
I'm not going in after my phone in a pit toilet.
Yeah, so you remember a couple episodes ago, I fresh tanked this band called Susto, still fresh tank. Go listen to them. They're awesome. We went to their show out at Codfish Hollow a few weeks ago. The only things there were pit toilets, okay? Every time I had to go, I handed my man, Jason, my phone, and I was like, you hold this. I'm not taking this with me because I am not going after my phone if it falls down into a pit toilet.
And that's the worst case scenario. My brother, Wes, dropped all of his cash on the floor of the porta potty in the dark because they're not lit.
So he had pee cash for the whole rest of the night, and none of us would touch it. So he had to go and buy all the drinks because we were like, we're not touching your pee cash. That's gross. So listen, give people your phones if you need to before you go in. Or here, just first off, why this woman's watch was, I have so many questions. My first thing, why is your watch off?
It probably just felt, because you can hit the band wrong.
What are you talking about? This is not coming off.
But if this was out.
Well, yeah, if you don't have it properly on.
She was hiking or something and it got stuck on something. You never know.
I guess she didn't have her phone and she wanted to look at something. She took her lock off. I don't know. But just people, please. Secure your items before you go into the pit toilet. I can't have these stories come across my news desk anymore.
Because it's a pit. What what is in your fresh tank this week?
Okay, so I have 2 fresh tanks this week. The first one is I would like to officially welcome our new little baby niece to the family. Audrey Vita was born a week ago today. This is the first girl born to me or my siblings or on your side of the family as well. So you and your brothers all have boys.
Yeah. And
Me and my brothers, there's the 4 of us, there's only 2 of us with kids. We all had boys. So there's been no nieces.
yeah.
And we got a niece last week. I have bought so much stuff.
Our bank account will never recover from this news.
No, it's beautiful because they live in California. So like wait, all the summer baby stuff is
it's
going on
beautiful
sale.
because it all has to be shipped.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so expensive to ship stuff too.
Yeah.
I was there yesterday. She's beautiful. I'm going to get to see her in
Gift
a couple
cards
of
are
weeks.
great.
No. Oh my gosh. I've already told my brother that you have to wait for me before the first trip to Disney, that I 100% call dibs on Bibbidi Boppity Boutique. Like my sister,
God,
yeah.
That's so expensive.
I don't care. I will take out a 3rd job. I am thrilled to have a niece. She comes into the family with 2 nephews that are there that are just the best kids. They're the best family. I'm so thrilled to welcome Audrey. Another A as well. We have an Abigail and an Audrey, as well as some other A's on the Treview side of the family. So I'm very excited about that. So that's my first one. My second one goes to me
Oh.
for, I know, I'm going to fresh take myself for the fabulous fantasy football team I have put together.
Oh.
Let me tell you.
This is what it's like to play any
Let me
game
tell
with
you.
Abby. She's such a bragger. She's such a sore winner. She's also a sore loser, for sure. Like, for
Let
sure.
me tell you, I am taking just right now, we're in week 3, okay? Hear me. I am taking the Trombardi home with me this year. And you might be going, Abby, it's called the Lombardi. No. In our fantasy league, it's called the Trombardi because we're the trade
Because
union.
Abby came up with that and is
And
going to make a
so-
trophy that if she wins, she is then going to give herself.
Yes. So I've already started making the trophy. But let me tell you, I've
Hey.
got McCaffrey.
You gotta beat
I've got Jalen Hurts.
you gotta beat Jack though. And Jack
What
is
the heck,
Jack
kid?
is doing just as well as you. And he is
There's
our
not.
child that is not interested in football at all.
There's not. But we
And
did.
isn't even trying. He just picked a team and is letting it run.
That is not true. We did encourage him because he
No, he's
had.
bragging that he's not trying. He's
Yeah,
like, I just press that optimize button every week and I'm good.
I have between Samuel and McCaffrey and Hurts, and I've got the Chiefs defense, although I wish I had the 49ers defense. I
Also,
am
you're
telling
bragging
you.
on Thursday. Well, after our Thursday game,
Well, how many points did
We
I bring
got-
in last night off of McCaffrey and Samuel?
A
Almost
lot.
50.
a lot.
49.
But we got a whole weekend ahead of us, and
Oh.
you might do terrible.
And my backup
You're
QB,
jinxing it.
my backup QB
And I hope
is Kirk Cousins. And he's brought in more points than anybody else. So I can't decide. Do I play Jalen Hurts this weekend or am I playing Kirk Cousins? I don't know. So many choices. I'm just saying I'm 2-0. Pretty sure I'm about to be 3-0 because I'm going to stomp all over our 10-year-old this weekend. And I'm taking home the
Did you
Trombardi.
hear what she said? Stomp all over our 10-year-old this weekend. This is what I live with. She just made herself her own fresh tank.
Sometimes it's okay to celebrate the wins, Jason. You gotta celebrate the wins. And I am a trade
Yes, you're celebrating getting halfway to winning.
I am a
sort of.
Treview. And Treview's don't lose, which is why my brother losing in this fantasy league
Treview's
is
don't lose.
so
There's like
sweet.
5 of you in this league,
I
and
know. And I'm
4 of you are going to have to
totally,
lose.
totally crushing my dad, my brothers. Remember when I started beating my dad at Scrabble? We'd all play Scrabble. How mad my dad was getting.
Yes.
I
Now
was
that you beat him,
beating at Scrabble,
now that you beat him about 1 every 5
he won't
games.
play. He won't play. He's like,
Yeah, that's why it is.
Yeah.
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 It's not because of Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about. I just feel that it is important to celebrate the wins. And right now, I got 2 of
All
them.
right. That's it for this week's episode of the RV Miles podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us this week. If you are enjoying the RV Miles podcast, would you please consider heading over to Apple Podcasts and leaving us a 5-star review? That review is putting this show in front of a whole new generation of RVers. So thank you very, very much. And of course, if you want to connect with Jason and I, you can find us over at the RV Miles Facebook group. Just head on over there, leave us a question, tag us in it. We'll do our best to respond. But until next week, stay safe, get those fantasy points, and if you need some advice, feel free to ask me, and keep logging those RV miles.
Bye, everybody.
It is not luck. It is well researched. I looked at the cover of a fantasy football magazine and I picked people off of it. That is not luck. Bye, everybody.